Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The Heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory. Williams is the running back next to Howe. Play action. Howe will now lob it down the near side. Newsom with a man all over him. Pins the ball against the back of the defender and brings it in. Heels can get a first down at the 3. Now, pump fake to the right. Now he's going to run to the left. Howe at the 5. Takes the shot. Pinballing off the chains for the touchdown. Sam Howe showing the toughness for 6. Mario's down 4, 35-31. May has the shotgun snap. Pressure coming. Rolls to the right. Goes to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Antoine Green! 16 seconds to go. No flag. Snapping it off the 8-yard line. May pulls it, tries to roll it apart. Oh, now he's going to throw it and score! Throws it to Paytor in the end zone for the touchdown. They are throwing a play left-handed. Was walking out on the run and threw it left-handed. Nard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio, he's going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
What's going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. It's your host, Anthony Pagnotta, here with you guys as always. And tonight, an emergency edition of the podcast here, coming at you live as we are talking about Bill Belichick and what is going on here at North Carolina. Many reports coming out, so we're going to sift through all this. We're going to tell you everything that we know here on this edition of the podcast. There are so many different sources that are coming out right now, but we're going to sift through all of it, give you our reactions to it, and then want to get your reactions as well. Make sure that you put them down there in the comments. We will get to as many of those as we can here on tonight's edition of the podcast. Let's start out, though, really quickly by telling you guys about our sponsor for tonight's edition of the podcast. That would be Legacy Arcade. Make sure that you guys go and hit that promo code up. Heels for $100 in free play. You can use that QR code right there in order to get on to Legacy Arcade, and it'll take you right to the page. You just put that promo code in, and it'll get you guys started. Legacy Arcade and Social Casino is a place where you can win cash prizes with roulette, blackjack, your favorite slot games, and multiplayer fish games. You can also win prizes playing your favorite arcade games. Use the promo code HEELS to get up to $100 in free match play at registration. Safe, secure, and 24-hour customer support is available for you guys. So it really is a great place to go and play your favorite games that you want to. We're big blackjack guys on this side of the table. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, this is the place to do it because they give you instant redemption immediately to your bank or card. All major credit cards are accepted, as well as Skrill and ACH. Apple Pay is coming soon as well, so make sure that you keep an eye out for that. Legacy Arcade, and again, you see that promo code there, HEELS, for $100 in free play. All right, well, let's get to what is going on around Carolina football. And really, we got to go back to a report that was released on Tuesday night. That was Pat Welter, or it was Monday night, actually, that we mentioned it a little bit on the podcast, that Pat Welter released an article, a report that sort of detailed what was going on inside of the Tar Heel athletic or the Tar Heel football program right now. And it was basically just telling you how there is no culture. This is just a complete disaster in terms of the direction of the program, and that, this is something that was being brought to him by parents, by those around the program. And that report certainly started out what would be just a multitude of reports, including one that stemmed off of his report, which was the suspension of Armand Hawkins, the Tar Heels defensive backs coach, that came down yesterday, last evening. We wrote that article for you guys and put that up there on the website. And that was, something that ended up happening because of what was detailed in Pat Welter's article, that he, along with the rest of the staff, gave a sideline pass to Thaddeus Dixon's family. That's something that is not allowed. That is something that, really just shows the division that is going on in the locker room between certain Bill Belichick guys that were brought in either through the transfer portal or through recruiting, and then eventually led to, some more reports coming out from Welter about the fact that certain guys were receiving preferential parking. There's some other stuff that they are receiving that Mack Brown recruits are not receiving, guys that were holdovers from the previous staff or guys that were recruited by the previous staff and eventually signed on with Belichick and his crew, a la Damon June, Bryce Baker, some of those guys. So, that was really the beginning of it, and everything since then has really gone completely downhill. We've gotten to the point now where reports are coming out that Carolina is supposedly had preliminary conversations about the possibility of potential exit strategies from the Bill Belichick contract. One of those is that, the way that they're looking to sort of get out from under it, they're trying to either minimize Bill Belichick's buyout. And so one of the ways that they are looking to do that is by getting, using these recruiting violations that are around the program and this violation by Armand Hawkins as a possible vehicle to get out from under the Bill Belichick, the contract that they have in place with him. So it is absolute craziness, and we are here to talk about it. Just, initial reactions to what we're seeing today. We haven't even gotten into what it was said by Ali Conley, a guy who had this, who had the first report that Bill Belichick was interested in this job and was potentially thinking about taking this job. So, I mean, this is just, it is a lot of information that has been thrown at us at one time, and it has us scrambling here to try to get you guys up to date on everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite from when the day he got hired, which was, for me, I was sitting at home refreshing Twitter over and over and over again, waiting for the announcement that he was going to be our head coach. Now you're refreshing Twitter. You're going to Inside Carolina, Tar Heel 24/7, maybe the Heel Tough blog website, and waiting to see when is he going to be fired, because it feels inevitable after what you saw on the field on Saturday, and then I guess just the messaging coming out of that loss in the last 24, 48, 72, now going on 96 hours. You've got people that have done this for a long time, Andrew Jones, Tommy Ashley, that have said it feels like once every 3 weeks, I've never seen something like this while covering college football or Carolina football. And it's not in a good way. It's one disaster after another. I think you kind of got to go back to the way that he was hired and the chaotic nature around his hiring and the division that it caused within the university's board of trustees and all that back then. And this kind of just felt like the inevitable result because, it wasn't like the whole decision makers were on board bringing him in. So once he got hired, there was division, and it's been nothing more than a further divide led by him and his GM, Michael Lombardi, since they've arrived on campus. And let's just get down to the simple fact of the matter. If Carolina was winning, no one cares. Like, this stuff may get reported, but you tolerate it because you're winning. Carolina's not winning. They're not being competitive, and the pathway to being competitive seems so far right now that it's why they're doing what they're doing and having these conversations. And I got to tell you, I applaud the heck out of Carolina for realizing, this is only 5 games, but this is 5 games too many. And in a roundabout way, I think it makes me even further believe they're committed to wanting to win big in football because they're realizing this isn't the avenue to get to that football success that we're so starved for. So what do we have to do to maybe make him go away? And obviously, do they want to pay him $30 million? No, they don't. And I don't blame them. But it does appear that, like, if that's what it came down to, if that was the only way to make him not coach, that option's very much on the table. And that's a good thing because it tells you that they've got the money in place to make a mistake go away, but still have the money that you would have to bring in a whole entire new staff to get you where you want to get to, which is being competitive as soon as next year. So this has been as chaotic a day as we've seen in a negative way as Carolina football fans. And it's just one that I'm not happy about it because I bought in, I believed in the hire, and I wanted it to be successful. But we always knew that if it went sideways, it wasn't going to be a smooth direction. It was always going to be chaotic. It was probably going to be ugly. And it appears right now, come hell or high water, Carolina, Bill Belichick, Michael Lombardi, and Jordan Hudson, they're headed to a messy divorce that's going to end his tenure as UNC's head coach a lot sooner than even the most pragmatic people maybe had anticipated last December.
Yeah, no one could have seen this coming. And we've been saying that with pretty much everything that's been going on around Tar Heel football. I mean, no one thought that we were going to get to this point 5 games into the season. And, you know, Ross Martin said it just a little while ago on Twitter, and I think he put it perfectly. You know, UNC is starting to act like an SEC football program. You know, they're negotiating buyouts. Big donors are meddling. Closed-door meetings, recruiting violations, program leaks. You know, power struggles, all this different stuff. And, you know, Carolina's jumping right into this. And I think it really is amazing that we are at this point this quickly. But I got to tell you, at this point that Carolina is at, you have to feel like ripping the Band-Aid off is the right move here. Like, there is no way that you feel. There are some people that say, hey, we just had to see it through. Man, if there are major recruiting violations, which is basically what is being said, recruiting and practice violations, according to Ali Conley, and we'll talk about what he reported here in just a little bit. But, I mean, if there are really those situations that you are dealing with, I don't see how you can possibly keep this going. There's no way. You have to go ahead and save as much face as you possibly can. You've got to also do it for the kids on this roster because these are the guys that are the most affected by all this. Yeah, we can sit here and cry and complain as fans about how affected we are by this, especially with the fact that we bought season tickets. We bought into the Bill Belichick era more than just about any time in program history. The fans have bought in. But at the same time, it's ultimately about the kids and the fact that they were signed up to play for the greatest coach in the history of the sport of football. They were sold on that being the reason to come to Carolina. And there is a good chance that most of those guys that were sold on that will not even really get to play on a field for Bill Belichick. I mean, you're talking about the majority of this roster, the guys that they brought in this 2025 recruiting class. The majority of them have not seen the field. So those guys were sold on playing for him. And there's a good chance that they will never get the opportunity to play for him. For guys like Thaddeus Dixon and Kamori House, I think for them it's incredibly sad because, you know, they came over from Washington thinking that they were going to be able to continue to build on their NFL draft stock and, you know, what they have shown at the college level. And it feels like that's all out the window right now. I don't know how far it goes in terms of how many guys on the staff are going to be fired. I don't know if everybody is going to be off this staff because everybody's involved in the recruiting and practice violations. But it certainly seems like that is on the table. And that's the thing is, if that is on the table, then Carolina just needs to a complete refresh. And, let's go with the timeline of how things have started today. So earlier this morning, there was a lot of rumblings about what was going on with Carolina, in terms of, following the recruiting violation or the on-field violation that you had with Armand Hawkins, there were people starting to talk about there were more violations around the program. I heard that last night from a couple of people, and that seems to be the fact of the matter at this point, is that there are multiple recruiting violations and practice violations, as well as possible on-field violations that they are dealing with right now. So, from that perspective, there started to be some buzz that this was the end of the Bill Belichick era, that things were going to come to an end today. That does not look like that is necessarily the case. Now, that could change as we go throughout the evening. That could change while we're on here on this edition of the podcast. But from my understanding, there is a belief that right now he is not necessarily fired just yet, but that this could come down sometime within this bye week. So that's what I think most people have to realize here, is that even if this doesn't happen this evening, there is a chance that it does end up happening sometime within the next couple of days. Then you get to the tweets from Tommy Ashley, who tweets, "Oh boy." You have Joey Powell, who tweets, "Buckle up, UNC fans." And then that's followed by the eye roll emoji from Tar Heel 24/7, which is Andrew Jones, and he uses that basically as a vehicle for his personal Twitter account. So you get all that, and then Andrew Jones comes out and puts out an article earlier today where there is just a ton of information in it. He says that as of 12:10 p.m., Bill Belichick has not been fired. Those reports are not true. A source with significant knowledge of what is going on chuckled and said that reports are not true. He then goes on to say, that said, potential exit strategy discussions took place this morning. It doesn't mean that Belichick will be fired, but preliminary conversations about the situation and its many prongs, effects, etc., were up for discussion. So right there, he admits that they are already having these preliminary talks. And that's what a lot of people thought that those closed-door meetings were scheduled for, was to have talks about getting Bill Belichick out of Carolina. How can you do it? And we talked about it. A lot of it is going to be tied to trying to get out with either paying none of his buyout or paying very little of his buyout. Andrew Jones goes on to say, I can note that if this were to happen, the school would prefer that they do it with cause to either eliminate or cut down on his buyout. This comes with from two conversations, but it wasn't said in that particular aspect that was formally discussed. He says, if termination with cause and no or minimal buyout becomes a real option, it's hard to imagine that it won't be acted on. He continues on talking about the ongoing discussion, said there was a sense of helplessness that was felt from those around the program, and that, people have known of some of the stories about the culture and the program and how everyone is treated, but the tsunami of stuff coming out now must be sifted through and confirmed. He said that this was a report that they actually had yesterday, was that you did have one player that was injured in the spring, showed up to fall camp and was told he could not be a part of the team and could not use the rehab facilities. Apparently there was a second player that was told that as well. This particular player, according to Jones, was on the field last season and getting some regular snaps. He also said that a source disclosed to Tar Heel 24/7 on Tuesday night that there may be many other violations that have occurred, many on the recruiting front. A second source said when asked that they have heard some things of late, but that there is no confirmation. That, of course, we have seen now, reports from Ollie Conley back that up as well. And then here's the key part that comes from Andrew Jones. He says, his opinion, as of right now, I don't think it's a lock that Belichick coaches the Cal game. The 24/7 sports, Tar Heel 24/7 staff has been placed on high alert, though we are confident that if something drastic happens, they will be the first to know about it. And of course, they will be reporting it. And he said, in closing, I will add to this thread if I learn anything else today. If it's major news, we will be posting a new thread. Then you have the reports from Ali Conley that come out, and he has a thread here. It starts with, per sources, Belichick has discussed buyout options with North Carolina's hierarchy. Belichick has signaled a willingness to trigger his own $1 million buyout if he can find a soft landing spot with another team or in the media. I got to tell you, the fact that it says with another team had me laughing. This was at 4:28 this afternoon. So very, very recent. This coming down from Ali Conley. He then goes on to talk about some of the members of the staff supposedly speaking with teams expected to be in the college football playoff, saying that they will take on roles for the team during the postseason. From one coach, you have the quote of the Rats are leaving the ship. Some staffers believe a change will come within 2 weeks. So that means that, again, within that bye week window, they expect that something is going to happen. And then he confirms that there are reports of serious recruiting violations that remain under investigation at Carolina. Recruiting and practice violations have already been proven by the school, according to multiple sources. He continues to go on, about using recruiting violations, not something that's shocking. We've seen that done before. I was reading an article earlier today from Football Scoop that said this was something that was attempted to be done back a few years ago by Kansas to get out from under David Beatty as a head coach. That did not work, unfortunately, in that circumstance. But it seems like there might be a little bit more here that would allow for Carolina to get out from under this, or at least not have to pay nearly as much of the buyout. Another thing that was really interesting from Ali Conley, he said in a tweet, quote, Belichick's communication with his staff in the past 2 weeks has been described as weird and distant by multiple members of UNC's coaching staff. Multiple coaches were unable to get a hold of him during UNC's bye week. That is something that makes a lot of sense, especially with the fact that he was in Nantucket, something that I think really, got to us as hosts of this podcast, especially with where the team is at. Josh was one of the ones that was pointing out during the offseason that he wasn't happy with the fact that Belichick was taking as many trips as he was then. We expected that during the season, those trips would end, especially if the team was struggling as bad as they are, but they didn't. And he just went on a trip last weekend instead of, focusing on this team and where they were at. Again, going back to what they've done to the kids and how messed up it is. And speaking of that, Ali Conley, the last thing that he posted from one UNC defensive assistant, quote, what we have done to these kids is blanked up. And you can fill that in with whatever word you would expect. It starts with the letter F, in case you are wondering. So, this is just, so we've got everything out there. We've got everything out there. We can just discuss what is going on here. It is unbelievable that we are at this point and how quickly things really developed. You look at how long it took things to develop back when they ended up hiring him, just as quickly as those things started to materialize. This has been in the course of one day where we have gone from thinking that, hey, people want him out. We think that there's a chance that he could be gone by the end of the season, to now we're talking about there is a real possibility that he will not coach another game in Chapel Hill, and that this experiment will come to an end after 5 games with possible major ramifications for the UNC program.
Yeah, and I think I've gotten to the point, because after Saturday, there was a lot of this conversation starting to heat up, and I was still trying to be hesitant and not want to get to the point. I don't want to see him coach here anymore. And it's not, yes, what's happening on the field is very heartbreaking and is very frustrating. But this has now just become a colossal embarrassment to a university that we all care so much about. Does North Carolina have a long storied football tradition? No, it's what led them to give Bill Belichick all the power that they gave him. And it's something that when you want to bring him here, that's what you kind of have to do. But it's also led to me wanting to say, okay, now we got to make you go away, because this was a mistake. It is a mistake. And you're embarrassing a university that has a lot of pride, and you're doing a disservice to these kids that all they wanted to do was come play football for a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Like, all these kids wanted to do was come play for a guy that they thought could make them winners, that could maybe get them to the NFL, that could make them better football players, make them better people. And that's not happening because, quite frankly, it's not a priority to Bill Belichick. Winning football games is not his priority. Developing players is not his priority. Developing men is not his priority. He only took this job because this was the only place willing to give him a job, and he was able to use his powers to get a lot of money and to get a lot of power. And what he's done is he's made an ass of himself, and he's made an ass of Carolina, which is why something has to be done. And this is what we always said. Once the chaos started going sideways back in the spring, in the NFL, you answer to an owner. You answer to one person. In college, you answer to a room, a board, people that have even more money than you have, that have even more power and influence than you have. And he's single-handedly in 9 months managed to piss every single one of those people off. And it's almost impressive. The level of ineptitude that he has kind of led Carolina in over the last 9 months. And, I really thought and I really believe that when it got to July 30th, whatever that day was when they went to camp, it would just be about football.
Yep.
And if it could just be about football, what could happen? And it's never just been about football. Along the way, it's been about his ego, or it's been about his girlfriend, or it's been about both. And at every point in turn, it's the university that's having to take the fall. It's the kids that are having to take the fall. And that's not right. That's not fair. And it's why Carolina finds themselves in the situation that they are right now. I mean, how do you have this many practice violations and you look this freaking bad on the football field? Like, if you're going to be out here illegally practicing the way that you are, you shouldn't be getting blown out the way you're getting blown out. You should at least, you should be undefeated if you're doing stuff from a practice standpoint that's not deemed legal by the NCAA. We live in a time and era where just about everything is legal in recruiting now. Just about everything is all on the table. But you still manage to do something that you're not allowed to do in recruiting. Like, you cannot make this up, but that's what happens when you have a guy like Bill Belichick, when you have a guy like Michael Lombardi that are entitled and as egotistically driven as they are, just walking around doing whatever the heck they want to do. And so this line of reporting today is as wild a situation we've ever seen in college football. And we've seen some crazy stuff happen with coaches. I mean, Lane Kiffin got fired on a tarmac 12 hours after Paul Feinbaum predicted it on College Game Day. Like, that happened. This, to me, I think still, takes the cake as the craziest, and he hasn't even been officially fired yet. But he's not going to be on the sidelines against Cal. Like, I think that is as much as a given as anything right now. And I just never thought that was going to be in the cards when he got hired, let alone when the season started. And think about this, folks. We're 5 weeks removed from the build-up to TCU, the anticipation to TCU, to the first drive against TCU, where Carolina walked right down the field and scored a touchdown, and it made you think they were ready for big boy smash mouth football. Fast forward 5-6 weeks later, and the coach is about to be fired, and the program is about to be facing some sort of probation in a time where there is literally no handcuffs the NCAA can put on programs, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how severe the punishments would be. I mean, the thing is you would imagine that firing your head coach is one of the right steps, one of the steps in the right direction. So I would say, you look at the situation at Michigan, I believe that this probably is something that is at least similar to that, probably on a similar level, if not a little less impactful than that. I mean, that's the thing. It really makes you wonder, is it possible that things really got this bad this quickly in terms of the violations that were committed? I mean, we're talking about, violations that were committed, within a 10-month span. We're not even 10 months into this experiment, guys. And this is the point that we're at already. So that's what's crazy to me. I would be stunned if it is any sort of, death penalty, anything in that range. But it is notable that that Ollie Conley does say serious recruiting violations. And you're right. How in the world is it possible for you to get serious recruiting violations in this day and age of recruiting? It's the NIL era. It's supposed to be easy for you to be able to recruit. I mean, everything is out in the open, and yet you still pick up these violations, the practice violations. I sure as hell hope that some of the rumors that the practice violations are that they weren't practicing enough during the bye week, because if that is true, or if it's not true, and Carolina was practicing too much, what were they practicing? Because this team looks like ass. Like, there's just no way around it. This team should look a hell of a lot better if this team was practicing as much as as that would lead to a recruiting violation. It just doesn't make sense. And you're right. The fact of the matter is, and to me, if the serious recruiting violations are true, and that, or the practice violations, whatever portion of it is true, then this firing was going to happen regardless of if Carolina was succeeding or not. I mean, my thing is you can't fire Butch Davis after all the allegations that he had against him and not do the same with Bill Belichick if these are as serious as it's being made out to be. So, I mean, yeah, I think this is the right move now, is to go ahead and get him out of here. The product on the field is terrible. We've talked about it. And the culture is just a complete disaster. I mean, you're talking about, hopefully, if this ends up happening, hopefully Mike Lombardi is involved with this, because I don't want that man anywhere near the program. I mean, you talk about not wanting Bill Belichick near the program. I think that is certainly the point that you've gotten to, mainly because, again, I think we've seen that Bill Belichick just does not care about this program. He doesn't care about the direction of this program. Frankly, at this point, I don't even think he cares about the direction of his own coaching career. I don't know what the reasoning behind him taking this job was. I don't know if he was basically forced into it by Jordan Hudson as part of a plan to sort of increase his stardom, or what exactly happened. But I mean, it is crazy to me that he took this job and has this little level of care. And we saw that on the sidelines. And I know that people told me, I got into arguments earlier in the week about people telling me that's how he looked in New England. And that was, something that should have been expected when he came here. You could tell that something was just off, that even in New England, there was moments where he was coaching guys. And in the offseason, I truly believe that he liked coaching guys one-on-one. But I think the biggest thing that we've gotten into now is that once the losing started, that was really where everything started to fracture. And I think he knew after that game against TCU, things are not where they need to be. I think he knew probably in the middle of that game, because of some of the images that we had of him not being anywhere near the team during some of the huddles. I think that was when it really sank into him that I am undertaking a lot here. This is not something that I'm really that interested in doing. And so, I mean, yeah, from his perspective, I think that's the thing that really makes you want him out of here, and the fact that he is overseeing a program that has multiple violations. The reason you want Michael Lombardi out of here is that Michael Lombardi is just a horrible human. We have learned that over the years. I think we've learned that from the interactions that we've had, and maybe horrible human is strong. I mean, in terms of this guy, it has not committed any crimes, anything like that, but he is definitely a bad guy. As we like to say, we like to put in the category of bad guy, which basically just means that you, as people have called him, arrogant, mean, distasteful. Those are some of the adjectives that have been used to describe him. And that seems to line up pretty well with what we thought about him. We thought, when he took this job, we thought him being around college kids, him being around Belichick again, it would soften him back up a little bit, and maybe he would become a little bit of a different person. We have learned that that is not the case, that he is still the bleep hole that he has always been. And that, this program right now, you can't have a guy like that that's trying to get in touch with high school kids, that's trying to recruit them to your program. And then eventually, you are seen as the caretakers of these kids that are 18 to 22 years old for the most part. Some of them are a little bit older because of COVID and everything like that, but you cannot act like that towards kids of that age. So when I heard some of that stuff, that immediately made me want Michael Lombardi out of there. And now I've gotten to the point with Belichick, when you stack on the violations and the fact that he just doesn't care, I'm on the same page when it comes to Belichick as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty blunt when it comes to Michael Lombardi. He's a piece of shit. And that's been evident in his 20 years before he got to Carolina. And it's only been exemplified in his 9 months on the job at UNC. If he was a villain, he would be Two-Face. Because what he does a really great job of, and I know this because I listen to the radio show, when he talks to Jones Angel, good guy. Actually does a really good job selling Carolina, making someone like me believe in what they're wanting to try to accomplish here. And I said from the time he got hired, I want that guy to be the mouthpiece. We know Belichick doesn't want to do the media stuff. He doesn't want to do the radio show. That's fine. It's a new era. Just put the GM up there, let him talk. I'm okay with that. And when he talks to Jones for an hour and he tells all these stories, you feel all warm and chummy. I didn't even overreact about the letter that he sent to the boosters and the donors, telling him, hey, this is going to be a process, and this is our vision. This is our goal. We're going to bring in 40 high school kids. We'll supplement the roster via the transfer portal. Okay, at least you're telling me what y'all plan to do, how to fix where you're at. But then we find out behind the scenes, I mean, you're just treating people badly. And what I've always thought about that, what made Carolina special and unique and different, whether it's basketball, baseball, soccer, field hockey, is that you've won with grace. You've won with really good people and trying to do it the right way in a world where, cheating gets celebrated because all we want to do is win, no matter what. Well, that's not what's happening here. We're treating 18 to 22-year-old kids like crap. We're holding it against them that we held you over from Mack Brown's staff. And so even though we didn't force you to leave, we're going to treat you differently than the guys that we brought in, the guys that we brought over from Washington, the guys that we brought in from the high school ranks. And then we wonder why we look at a team that has no emotion, while we look at a team that has no heart, while we look at a team that doesn't want to stand in front of an empty student section and sing the alma mater, because it doesn't matter to them, because it doesn't matter to the people in charge. And I think that's when it really hit me on Saturday, man. Because you asked me, when do you want to leave? When do we want to start making the walk over? And I told you, I said, we're not leaving until they sing the alma mater. No, we stay. We don't leave games early. We're gonna sing the alma mater with them. They didn't do it. They just
unless we missed it, unless we somehow missed it. But the thing is that you said it. They don't lock arms and stand there and sing the alma mater like they used to. And that was something that was done under Larry. That was something that was done under Mack Brown. I don't know if it was done under Butch because I don't remember. I went to a game under Butch, or no, it wasn't under Butch, but it was under Everett Withers. I mean, I would believe they did it back then. So yeah, when you're turning your back on that, which is something that every university does,
Yep.
that just shows you that these guys are not built for the college level. And that's fine, man. Like that's okay that these guys aren't built for the college level. But it's sad that we got duped into thinking that these guys were actually going to be able to build something here at Carolina. Because, I mean, now, like, we're past the point of no return. Like, there's no way, even if, you end up firing and you're wondering what direction you go in. I mean, this has got to be happening. You don't have preliminary conversations about this kind of stuff and then don't make the move, especially with the reports coming out from Ollie Conley that Bill Belichick is looking for basically a soft landing. I think we're past that point. It's just a matter of when now. So, but I mean, yeah, it is incredibly sad, man, because yeah, you're right. Those kids that were brought in here with the goal of just playing college football for the greatest of all time, they thought that he was going to be bought in. And that's what's sad is that it's when he first showed up on the job, it felt like he was actually bought in. But I think he realized as he went along that this is not necessarily what I signed up for. Really, I think his own ego really just got in the way. And I think a big part of that is Jordan Hudson being in his ear. We thought that as the season, as we progress towards the season, that Jordan Hudson would sort of disappear and that, this wouldn't really be that big of a talking point. Well, here's the thing. She has disappeared in terms of being in the headlines. But I do think that, behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff that's still going on with her, man. She is still in the head of Bill Belichick, making, really telling him that everything needs to be about you when that's not the reason that we hired you. We hired you because, yes, you are the greatest coach of all time, but we hired you for the kids. We hired you so that you could come in here and coach these guys up like no one had ever coached them before. Not Mack Brown, who's one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football. You could say that that's not necessarily true, but in terms of that, I'm talking if you're looking top 50 coaches of all time, top 100 coaches of all time, Mack Brown is in that area. So he deserves a ton of credit for the career that he had here. And that's something that I think we're starting to realize now with Bill Belichick. But you were brought here to take what he had done and take that next step and really get these guys to be able to, find a way to develop some of these guys the way that Mack Brown was not able to, find a way to recruit at a similar level to what we saw early on in the Mack Brown era, Mack Brown 2.0, and even going back to his first stint here. That was not what we got. I mean, people will say, well, he did a really good job of recruiting. Guys, he did a good job of recruiting because he has 36 guys that are committed to the recruiting class. Yes, there are some talented guys that are a part of that class, but let's not act like these were not guys that Mack Brown would have been able to land if he was at Carolina and had the same backing that Bill Belichick had. So, I think one thing that's important is that a lot of people are going to be wondering, well, if Bill Belichick is gone, does that mean that the backing is gone? From everything that I've been told, that it does not mean that the backing is gone. Carolina has bought into football. This means that Carolina is going to be going after, in football as hard as they would, whether Belichick is here or not. This is something that frankly has to happen because, this is what will sustain your athletic program moving forward, especially if Carolina wants to keep the Olympic sports that they are so successful in. You need to get behind your football program. You need to put as much money into your football program as possible and try to make money through football. That's the reason why they have gone all in on this. So, I mean, yeah, I think that, Carolina is still in a position where they are going to be able to go out, spend a decent amount of money on a head coach, and hopefully it is a head coach that cares more about the kids on this team, this university as a whole, than cares about himself the way that Bill Belichick, Michael Lombardi, and some of the other staff members that are here currently do.
Yeah, I think I think that is going to happen because one, Carolina's they're gonna be fine, but there's gonna be some internal embarrassment. There's gonna be a lot of I told you shows from people that were trying to make sure this did not happen back in December. So they're gonna have to make the hire to kind of improve reputation. But with that, you still got to hire a quality football coach. You still got to hire someone that can put you in a position to succeed, compete, especially if moving to the SEC is still very much a goal for this athletic department, which I kind of hope it is because there's just so much to gain moving to the SEC as opposed to staying here in the ACC. What does that look like? I to this day, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know Matt Campbell would be a name that you could see Carolina go after. John Summerall, although it feels like he's holding out to get the Kentucky job because Mark Stoops might not think he's going anywhere, but Kentucky might move on from him to bring back an alumnus to run the program. Like those are going to be two very popular names. We maybe have to prepare ourselves for Mack Brown 3.0, just because because Mack Brown for the most part didn't have many enemies. Like as ready as people were ready for maybe to move on, it was not as personal as it's now gotten personal with Bill Belichick. You see Justin Lindy on Facebook right there comment James Franklin. Look, I would not complain about James Franklin. Here's the problem. He has a $50 million buyout. If Penn State gets $50 million, could I see him being made available? Absolutely. Am I going to anticipate that happening? No, I'm not. But I still think Carolina will be able to make a quality hire as long as the financial commitment is still there. And I don't think they would be in a position to want to make this move if they're making the move, but then not having the money made available to bring in a new staff. I'm going to presume that whether Bill Belichick triggers his buyout or whether they're able to get where they want to get to, this move would be made in mind that we're going to move on from him, but we're still going to have the money available to hire a good staff and then have money available for the players that you would want to recruit both out of high school and out of the transfer portal this upcoming offseason. So, it's just we've literally never seen anything like this.
Yep.
And we're saying this twice in a 9-month span because when they hired him, we had never seen anything like it. And now as they're in the process of really trying to figure out how to fire him, we've literally never seen anything like this.
No, I mean, that's the thing, right? All these other places that you have seen coaches bought out, it was because they didn't have on-field success. Most of the time, if there were recruiting violations, coaches were fired with cause. This seems like a much more complex situation, especially because it's taking place within the first 5 weeks of game action for the Tar Heels. That's something we've never seen before. We've never seen it go this bad this quickly. And so that's what I think just has us mystified, is that we are sitting here in a time period that we did not, that nobody could have imagined. No one could have imagined it'd go this south this quickly because, everybody thought, again, that he was bought in and that he was ready to take over this program. And, with as south as things have gone, all these things that people are suggesting as a possibility, could possibly be on the table for this group. Somebody, Michael Daniels on YouTube, we want to appreciate you guys, of course, for tuning in. Michael, you've been commenting a lot here, and you say, where is Inside Carolina on this news? I want to make this very clear. Inside Carolina has their own reports that they're putting up, probably on their own message boards and everything like that. We are not reporting that he is fired. We are reporting everything that is going on around it, which is basically that they have had preliminary talks about firing Bill Belichick. But the thing is that with some of the reports that are coming out from Ollie Conley, it feels like this is more real than we even thought earlier this morning. Brett Weeks says it right here. News isn't official. That's exactly what it is. The news is not official just yet. We're hoping that it becomes official here on this edition of the podcast. If not, we're hoping that it becomes official sometime later on this week. I know Myron Goodman, one of our good friends that listens to us over at WFNZ, is somebody that sends me a lot of information on social media. He told me that, or he said in the comments that it looks like it could be Friday before they actually end up making the move. If that is the case, that would be, that it would still be amazing that Carolina moved that fast, even if it takes that time. And it makes a lot of sense. The one thing that I think people have to realize is that what they are doing right now is they are gathering together. They maybe not officially, but what they did earlier today was they gathered together and had preliminary talks, which basically means they are looking at his contract. They are saying, is there any way possibly out of this? And, again, with the violations that are going on, that could be coming Carolina's way, the punishments that could be coming their way, they could have cause to fire him. And that's ultimately what Carolina is looking for. So you got a couple of questions here on social media that I want to get to. Start with Lenny Rain. He says, think he is gone before Cal. I don't see any way possible that he is not gone before the Cal game. I think at this point, with everything that's being reported, it would make me believe that he will not be coaching this team in the game against Cal. Whether it is he is not the head coach of the program, he is suspended, whatever it is, he is not going to be on the sidelines for this game. If there are multiple recruiting violations and practice violations, you would feel like Carolina is going to act on that and just go ahead and suspend him. But at that rate, with you dealing with that kind of stuff, again, I think it's more likely that he ends up being fired. I mean, you agree with that, right?
Yeah. And I find it hard to believe he's on the sidelines for Cal. I find it hard to believe he's still employed by the time Carolina, is starting to begin preparation for Cal. And that's kind of the tricky thing about this is like you're kind of thankful now that you had the bye weeks structured the way that they were. Like, could you imagine if this was a game week and you had all this stuff coming out and you were trying to prepare for a game, let alone a road trip on the West Coast at 10:30 at night on a Friday? So Carolina's kind of got the ability to kind of take their time and do what I would call their due diligence right now. But at some point, like if this is going to become the final destination, whether it's from Carolina's side or Bill Belichick's side, you kind of got to reach out sooner rather than later so you can figure out who the interim's going to be and then figure out how many Bill guys are going to stay, how many Bill guys are going to leave in the middle of the year, and then try to start putting the pieces back together and starting to prepare for next week's game against a Cal team that's probably going to blow your doors off. So, but I find it hard to believe that the hoodie will be on the sidelines for the Cal game. But I expect you to be because of a termination, not because of suspension.
Rennie, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name. I'm Italian too. I'm not going to butcher it. He says, wonder if he's at practice today or tomorrow. Probably not. The other thing is I doubt they're having practice. It's a bye week. And the thing is that with Bill Belichick, and I heard this was one thing that I wanted to bring up, but I didn't read enough into it. And this was my fault. I don't know if you heard this, and I don't know if you went over this when you went through the takeaways from the from the presser the other day. When he said that the team had not practiced since Wednesday of the previous week, that was on Tuesday. He said that the team had not practiced from Wednesday of the previous week. I thought to myself, that's a little odd. Something doesn't seem right there. And look, I've seen a lot of these press conferences before. Mack Brown had a lot of press conferences like that. And to me, there was that I never heard that even from Mack Brown. Even with how light Mack Brown's practices were, they were still practicing during the bye week. And I thought to myself, that is a little weird that they are not practicing during this time. So, I mean, I should have probably read in more to that. But I mean, yeah, this is maybe that was something that really should have shown us that Bill Belichick and his staff weren't doing things the correct way when during the bye week.
No, undoubtedly, because I listened to the Michael K show. Paul Feinbaum joins him every Tuesday, and Michael asked him about him taking the trip to Nantucket, which now that was problematic. That was a sign or cause for concern. But it's kind of become common practice, especially now where they have the 2 bye weeks in college football, where they do give them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. They usually actually send the players home. So I think that's something that has gotten newer into the sport. Because Belichick mentioned that they had it was like a fundamental practice and then a situational practice where one day was just all about, drilling home the fundamentals, drilling home. The next day was all situational football, which is mind-blowing because of how bad Carolina has been in situational football so far this year.
And then on Saturday.
Yeah, and so that one didn't catch me as too much a surprise just because I do think that is something where it's become a little bit more NFL-esque, where they do give these players a little bit more time off than they used to. But your coach should not be on vacation. If he doesn't want to be at the office, okay. I mean, you're talking to someone that believes the coach should be at the facility 20 hours out of the day. So, I'm really going to get my butt chapped whenever I find out he's in Nantucket. And Lombardi tried to smooth it over and say, well, he went to go do a little bit of recruiting. And but here's my thing. Did we see any photo evidence of him at a high school football game? Did we see him? Were there reports of him being somewhere recruiting? Because I feel like if Bill Belichick was somewhere recruiting, we'd know about it.
Well, he was what you're talking about during the bye week. He did take a couple of visits to schools in Massachusetts. But then from there, that was where he, of course, went on his vacation. And yeah, you're right. Why are you not out recruiting guys at the high school level? You're still talking about Michael Lombardi said that they are looking to bring in 40 new players in this recruiting class. Well, you had 37 of them. You lost one. That was something that was expected even before all this stuff came down. There were some rumblings that Amari Johnson, who ended up decommitting earlier in the week, he was going to decommit anyways because he was getting new interest from Ole Miss. That recruitment has just been crazy. Like, that's just what that recruitment has been. But the thing that was nuts to me is that you don't see any of his guys out anywhere. You don't see any of his assistants. Like, that was the thing. Remember what we used to see under Mack Brown, what we would see under Larry Fedora, was we would get photos of these guys out at certain high schools. Earlier this year, we were out at a game and we saw, calling a game for WFNZ at Independence High School, and we saw Marcus Freeman on the sidelines. That was, that's a guy that's a part of his class, but Nick Reddish is a guy that is not one of the top players in his recruiting class. He was still on the sidelines to take in his game and, show that he was there to support a guy that is committed to his recruiting class. We have not seen that at all from Bill Belichick. We have not seen that at all from any of these coaches. Now, maybe I've missed that, but that's another sign that, hey, something's not right here. Now, the good news is that we've seen a couple of people have sent this to us while we've been on this edition of the podcast. Big K on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it, sending us all this stuff. Zavi and Griffin Haynes and Big Ruff, Trayshawn Ruffin, said they're not going anywhere. Don't know if you saw that. Yeah, we're on here on this edition of the podcast, so I did not see that. But that is good to know that a lot of these recruits have said they are sticking with this program right now. Now, again, we'll see if they actually do end up making the move, whether or not these guys are wanting to stick around. But that is certainly something that is a concern when it comes to making this move. You've got Michael Daniels saying Bubba has to be laughing. And then Nottingham 27511 says board hired Belichick over objections of AD. They should be held responsible for their mistake. Nottingham, I got to tell you, I could not be more in lockstep with you. John Pryor is the man that needs to be held accountable for this, because this was something Bubba Cunningham didn't want. This was something that certain other board of trustees members did not want. And that is really where the divide began. It's amazing to me that there was a divide when it came to hiring him, and the divide really started there and extended over into him actually being the coach and what has happened in this locker room. I am 100% with you. This is on the board of trustees. This is on John Pryor for making this hire. And it's why I've said he needs to stay out of hiring for athletics. You need to stick to what you are there to do, which is worry about what's going on with the actual school, not about the hirings of the athletic department. That's why you have an AD. That's why you have Bubba Cunningham. That's why you're going to have Steve Newmark. Chancellor Roberts, I know he wants to be involved in this stuff too, but you've got to trust your athletic director to make the right decision. Bubba Cunningham was a guy that wanted either Matt Campbell or John Sumrall. And we've talked about those as guys that Carolina should potentially go after again if this job opens up. It's amazing to me that you listen to some dumbass that just pulled an idea out of his rear end and just threw it out there on the table. He said to himself, well, Bill Belichick's got to be available. Why don't we try to go after him? This is why you don't try to go after a man like that. And now you are potentially putting this university under the NCAA cloud again. And so again, I say to you, and I said this the other day, John Pryor, you did a great job of messing this up. And it's just a complete disaster. All right, guys, we have to get to our guests here this evening because we've got a former Tar Heel quarterback that is joining us, a guy that is now a part of the Tar Heel Radio Network. It is Bryn Renner joining us here on this edition of the podcast. Bryn, what's going on, man? It is an absolute – you are walking into a complete dumpster fire here today. Podcast. I was not expecting this, man, but how you doing?
Yeah, what's up, boys? Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I know we got probably a lot to discuss, and I don't know if a dumpster fire yet. We're battling through some things. So, but yeah, good to be here, man. I'm a huge fan, so I know we've been trying to get this done for a long time, and I've been holding it up, so I apologize, and thanks for being patient.
No, it's all good, man. I hope everything that was going on has worked itself out. That we had the first time we were trying to do this. And
yeah.
Hey, man, the crazy thing is the first time we were trying to do this was before the TCU game. We were feeling great. We were feeling
That's
like,
right.
Man, we've arrived. We're on the scene. And now we've gotten to this point. From your perspective, how crazy is it that we have gotten to this point this fast with Bill Belichick and with everything that's going on around him?
Yeah, I think, look, I think my perspective is a little bit different probably than everybody, just because I've been around the game so long. So like nothing surprises me, right? So like, my dad was a coach. I've obviously played, high school, college, and the pros, and I've been cut, fired, benched, and I worked with Butch at FIU and did coaching for 5 years. So I get it from a lot of perspectives, right? And I really don't think anything surprises me anymore. I think this is kind of the nature of college football. It's highly volatile. Every single week, it feels like everybody's on pins and needles. Wins or losses, and you look at the other programs across the country that had dreams of going to the playoff that are kind of like 2 lost teams now. You look at Penn State that lost to UCLA, like that's an embarrassing loss. So I think when you look at it from a whole picture, college football is a marathon. And it's a lot different than the NFL. And I think we're probably going to get into that a little bit. But, like, when you wear the emblem of NC, there's people from California to rural North Carolina, and everybody in the country knows what that emblem means and how much it means to us three and everybody across the country. So there's a lot more eyes on the college game now because it's so competitive. And it's not just a little city. It's not just Foxborough, Massachusetts on a Sunday. And, the NFL is such a business where, you can really hire and fire people. But what we love about the college game is you watch kids develop right before your eyes and become a Drake May. Like I remember when Drake was getting recruited, right? So like you look at a kid And I think that's what I was thinking about this today. And a lot of things have been flying around, whether it's true or not true. And, honestly, I don't give a shit. You just got to go play the game, right? Like I went through NCAA investigations, guys, and they fired Butch 6 days before we played JMU. So nothing really phases me. And, and I think it's just I've been through it. But I was thinking about, when we were recruiting Drake and I get on the phone with him and, it was between us and Alabama. And it just kind of like gave him the recruiting sales pitch of what it means to be a Tar Heel quarterback. And he came here and had a really good career. And then you see what he does on Sunday night. Like, that's why we love college football, right? Like, that's why we love the Drake Mays, the Sam Howells, the Marion Hamptons. Their stories. And college football is such a story-based, business because it's really kids. You're 18 to 22-year-old. It's you're growing up, right? And I think that's what I love about the sport, what I love about the game. And it's such a interesting time across the landscape of college football, especially with the Heels this season.
Yeah, Bryn, you're definitely right about that. I want to thank you for making some time for us. Was a big fan of you on the field. I've been really enjoyed you up in the booth alongside Jones. You joined WFNZ back during training camp. You joined the Mack and Bone Show. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
and you were very complimentary of what Bill Belichick and what this staff had done, and you did say, look, it had a pro vibe, it had a pro atmosphere had been installed and been created. Let's go back to that TCU game. The build-up was something like as fans we've never seen. Carolina walks right down the field. I'm yelling a bunch of words I can't repeat on this podcast because I felt like, okay, yeah, we have arrived, and now you fast forward to where we are now. What I guess surprises you the most about, I guess, just the disconnect that exists between Bill Belichick, his staff, and the players?
Yeah, I think it's a great point because, I think that's something you bring up, which is great, Josh. And I went to a couple practices and I mean, the organization from on the field preparation is second to none and always will be. I think, we can't take away how great he is at coaching the game. And honestly, the record speaks for itself. So I think there's a lot of things that are maybe distractions off the field, but also things that are different with the college and pro game. I think it's night and day. And I think, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that this is a 24/7 job to be the head coach. And you're almost like the mayor. There's no days off on recruiting. There's no days off on, trying to prepare and trying to get your guys motivated. And another thing that I was thinking about too is all these guys are still kids and all these kids need to be developed. And I think that's the biggest thing is you play a lot more players. They only dress 53 in NFL. Like you're throughout the course of your season, like we just lost Thad. Like Thad's going to be out for a little bit. Like you're going to have to play a freshman. That freshman's not ready to go play against Clemson. I'm sorry. Like there's a drop off. Like, and I wasn't ready to play as a freshman. I had to sit for 2 years. So you're really like looking at these kids and you're looking at them where their talent level from the starter to the backup is probably a drop off, right? And then you look at that starter's got to play, or the backup's got to play a lot more snaps that he never has because he's going to be fatigued. Then you're going to have to get the third guy ready to roll. So like those are all things that you're like, holy shit, I got to do all this. And how many reps did the third team guy get in a week? And he's probably standing there worried about his girlfriend and math test. And then you look at the pros, it's like, well, let me go get that backup receiver that's on the practice squad, and we'll bring him. And he's a pro, and he's going to be ready to go. So now you're coaching schematics. So the NFL, you're coaching schematics, which is straight all ball, which is why I loved it. It was all football. Then you take a college kid that's got to worry about class, his girlfriend, going to the bar, and he might not be playing. There's a lot of distractions. He's got to do commercial shoots. So there's a lot of more crap that he has to deal with. And I think Coach Belichick wants to coach football, and he's one of the best to ever do it. And I still believe that. And I still believe that we can right this ship because I'm always going to be a Carolina through and through. And I do. I'm a believer. I think there's some things that I would do. One being I would have a players only meeting if I was a player. And I'm going to be honest with you, boys, we've done it before. And I'd say this shit stops now, man. Like I'm using it as fuel. Like if I was playing on Saturday, I'd probably if I was flying to Cal to go play, I'd throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns because I'm pissed and I want to prove, and it's my time because that emblem means a lot to me. And if I was a player, I would have, hey, man, we don't care. I don't care who the coach is. I don't care who the chancellor is. I don't care who the AD is. That's not our problem. Our problem is to go play, and we look like shit. And we have to improve. And because now us three are like, man, we got to get some dogs in there. And there was a time where you have to be a player and go make plays, and regardless of the coaches. So to your point, Josh, I still believe that we have a chance to still right this ship. It's just going to take a lot of work. And I think Coach Belichick's realizing how much you got to put into this. And it's hard. It is hard. And I remember when Butch Davis was 70 in his late 70s at FIU. It takes a toll, man. Like, I'm not sure I would want to be 73. I'm worried about my golf game. And, there's different things. And so I'm not saying that he's doing that. I think he's doing the best he can. But, every season is different in college football. Like, we didn't think Clemson was going to have, be 1-3 and come play Carolina. So you just never know. It's like playing poker. You don't know what somebody else has. And then you look at a team like UVA, they're 19th in the country. Georgia Tech beats Clemson. I'm like, that's why college football is special, boys. We just got to ride the wave.
Yeah, I mean, I think there certainly is that thought. And, hopefully this is, something where Carolina can find a way to, be more competitive in these games moving forward. How about that aspect of it? This team, they played 3 power conference opponents so far, and they haven't really been competitive in any of those games. How shocking has that been to you? And what do you think is the solution to getting these guys to be more competitive? Or is there just a lack of talent that's going to be impossible to overcome this year?
Yeah, I think, I was at a 10 level of, I would say, pissed offness in the box, just because it wasn't competitive, right? And I think from a fan's perspective, all we want, boys, you guys bleed blue. I do too. And we just want a team that's going to be competitive. We want to see 4 quarters of getting after somebody's ass. I don't care if we lose by a field goal or 50, but if I watch and I'm entertained and I see a lot of effort, we can work with that. But I think this was the first time that I was disappointed because I didn't see the effort. And, Randall runs down the sideline and nobody pushes him out of bounds. We get beat on a double move, the same play that we got beat against UCF. So there was no corrections made after a week off. And that's concerning. That's when I got concerned. I'm like, man, it's already 28 skunk, and we just had a bye week. So now everyone's thinking the same thoughts, and that's fair. Like, look, we all watch the games. You can't sugarcoat it. But I think competitiveness comes from within, and we got to make some changes. I said it earlier this week, and I mean it. I think, changes have to be made, whether it's personnel as far as who's playing on the field, whether it's, who's coaching. And I'm not trying to say fire a coach, because I was a coach that got fired. So I don't want to do that. But there's things that throughout the season have to be made and make changes, because this is a business and we want to win. And people are putting too much money and effort and intensity not to make those changes. So, I think there's just different things that are coming down the line, and we're going to play some decent teams that are all potentially going to be battling for bowl berths. And we all know how that looks. That team plays out of their mind when they know they can go to a bowl game, especially the coaches coach a lot harder because they get a bonus. So you got to think about all these factors that are coming down the line. And we're about to, all of our bye weeks are done. So we're going to have 6 straight. And it's really going to be, a time to where it can define us. And I would also say this, a lot of guys are auditioning to be on the team next year just because of the transfer portal. And I know they came out today and there's a window in January. And that's going to come quick. And you got to make roster decisions really, really fast after the season. So a lot of things in college football that are just crazy wild. But, we go to Cal on the road. You lose a day of prep because you're playing on a Friday. And so you got to think about that. It's all those things you have to think about. And you're going to the West Coast, and you in the kickoffs at 10:30 Eastern, boys. So it's just crazy. It's something that, going throughout a season, you got to kind of prepare. And like I said, you lost that. You lost some other guys, and Gio's out, and just you lost guys that's going to happen. So those second and third team guys got to step up and make plays, and you struggle to get them enough reps because you probably didn't do it in camp, which is just part of the business.
You mentioned the changes that need to be made. Let's look at the offense, because there aren't a lot of pretty numbers over there. And Look, it's one thing for me to sit here and say they need to do X, Y, and Z to play competitive offensive football. When you look at the struggles for Gio, even for Max on Saturday against Clemson, what are areas that you can identify where you can say Carolina can make these subtle changes? Like I'm a believer in playing no huddle. Just get up to the line of scrimmage, play faster. Is that something that you think that if Carolina would play, I guess, a more modern style of offense, would they put up more yards, more points, and be more competitive on that side of the ball?
Yeah, Josh, I think it's a great point. And I think it's very fair because, look, if it's not working, you got to get creative, right? And you got to do things that are different. And you can't just, say, well, we're – I never wanted to put an offense in a box, right? Oh, we're pro style or we're spread. Well, how do you know, right? Like, how do you know? Like, can Gio do those things? Did you see it on film? Has he done it? Has he been under center? Can Max do different things? Max and Gio are two different players, right? Like, we all see that. Like, you're playing Madden. I always say this, like, we play enough video games that, like, you can't run outside. Like I'm not running zone read. Marquise is running zone read. Like, that's what it was. I can't do that. If come back on third down, I'll do that. And there's just different things, and you got to develop an offense. And an offense is going to have their identity every year if you give it time to grow. And I think that happens game by game. That happens, play by play almost. And you got to adapt. And I think that's the biggest thing that I don't see that we're doing is we're adapting. Like, I agree with you, Josh. Go no huddle. Like, let's practice it. Like, we had to drive before half, and I wanted to see it. I just wanted to rep it. I don't care if we lose. I just want to go no huddle. And see if it's 5 wide, and then, kind of do something different, right? If you came out and went 5 wide, at least we're saying that we're trying to get better. And, I don't have the answers to that. When I coached, I posed those questions because there was games that we didn't score, and it was tough to move the ball because they had a great game plan or they brought blitz packages. So I just think every game is different. You have to adjust. But offensively for us, the best back in the room is a freshman. And, he's played outstanding. If we don't have him, I don't know what we're doing. And really everyone else has been, kind of average or below. And I loved how Max played. And I know it wasn't pretty. I know he missed throws high. But, you got to think about it. He didn't get many first-team reps probably because they were trying to get Gio ready in training camp. He took some hits. I mean, Clemson was blitzing his butt until the fourth quarter, and he was getting smoked. And, yeah, did he connect on every single throw? No, but he played confident, and we were at least trying to push the ball vertically down the field. And I think to you guys, I think the only thing that I have a problem with is we haven't tried to push the ball down the field using the hashes in the middle, like, at all. And I think that's something that those are the mismatches on the field. I really do. I think those are the mismatches on the field offensively. And I was talking to TJ Yates. He calls me on his way home. He's the Falcons pass game coordinator and coach receivers. And we were talking about Carolina. And he goes, man, I was like, what would you do? And he goes, you just got to get creative and motion and shift and, like, confuse the heck out of people. And that's what we did when we had John Shoot. We motioned and shifted, and we didn't have, we didn't have like Akeem. I remember Akeem left, Brandon Tate left, and who's the other receiver? They were like the three musketeers.
Brandon Foster?
Foster, yeah. So we lost all 3 of those guys, right? And we were kind of like Mook was a freshman. We had guys that were – Josh Adams was a freshman, and we motioned the shifted the shit out of people. And it was like, all right, boys, we have no – it's like the annexation of Puerto Rico. Guys are just flying everywhere. And I'm like, it's stem to strong right, Z short, 772 Z drive. And I'm like, holy shit, where are we? Like, I don't even know where my guys are going. I'd say set hut, and the people are just going. And I think that's the cool thing is, like, you can confuse the shit out of college kids. Like, you really can. Like, that's why you can't do it in the pros, because Kuechly, it will get your butt. But, like, in college, you got to go after that freshman. You got to go after that sophomore. You got to go after these people. And you can be on the attack offensively if you have that game plan. Like, for me, fellas, like, I was like, dude, if this dude's a freshman, I'm going to fucking throw for 350. I can't cuss on this thing, but I guess I just did. So, like, I literally had that mindset. I was like, yeah, I'm going after him, and I think, like, I get so passionate about it because that's what's fun about the game. Like, y'all play basketball, y'all play pickup basketball in recess. Hey, man, that dude stinks. I'm taking him down to the paint, and I'm going to work his tail, and I'm getting buckets. It's the same thing in football if you have a good offense. And I think that's what we kind of try to get to is, okay, what scheme can we create? How can we confuse the defense, keep them on our heels, and then with an offense, you got to attack. So that's just my opinion. Sorry for cussing.
No, you're good, man. You're good. We love the passion. I mean, that's definitely, trust me, we want to be able to curse as much as you do, especially with where we're at. But, when you look at Max Johnson, one of the things that I thought was immediately when he came in just looked more calm, looked like he was more under control. The question that I think most people have is, do you think he can build off of that performance and really expand out? Is he going to be able to move the ball vertically down the field? Because we just haven't seen them be able to do that this year. Do you think with what you saw from him the other day, he's a guy that's capable of doing that? And do you think this offense is capable of doing that? Because are the receivers creating the type of separation to do that?
Yeah, I think he gives us the best chance to win right now, just from what I've seen. I mean, you played a Clemson team that was a top 5 team coming in the preseason, and you didn't look like it. Yeah, did we move the ball? No, but our field position was terrible. I mean, we were backed up on some drives. We didn't turn it over like we have been in the previous 4 games, and it looked like every time he walked on the field, at least I knew he was going to throw it. At least I knew it was going to be a bang bang play or some completions. Like, you look at the first drive, we walked down the field on him. If we don't have a penalty, we score. And I think that's something that we've done well, is have a good first drive. But then, where do we go from there? I think those are scripted plays, but I think Max gives us the best chance to win. And I think we're really and I think speed is our deficit at receiver, right? Like, we don't have a Josh Downs. We don't have a Tez Walker. Like, we lack some speed out there. And I'm just being honest. And I think everyone sees it. Like, we got to get faster. But if you don't have fast guys, you gotta be able to throw and catch really, really well consistently, because it's going to be long drives. You're not going to have the explosive plays like Sam did. You're not going to have the explosive plays like Drake did, because you don't have the speed. But there's ways to get around that. And I do think we're going to get better. Like, guys get better with reps, right? Like, we're playing some freshmen from Florida. Like, we're playing guys that, are young, but we want to get them in the game and kind of develop them. But I think there's just different ways that we have to do that. And, I think we're going to shock some people kind of as we get more reps and more confidence too, and we kind of get a stable guy under center.
2 guys I want to ask you about, Brent. You mentioned Damon June, the best running back, in the room as being a freshman. I've compared him to, he reminds me a little bit of Ryan Houston and Anthony Elsie, the way that he runs. I wanted to see if you agreed with that comparison. And then we're both big fans of Jordan Shipp. And when we did our preseason stuff, we said he could be like an all breakout guy and maybe an all ACC caliber wide receiver. Do you think that talent is in reach for him, or is there maybe some room for him to grow during his time here at Carolina?
I think Josh is a great player. I'll start with him. Excuse me, Jordan Shipp. I was really like player
too back in my day. I'll take the credit.
No, he wasn't. That's a lie.
Hey, you know what's crazy about football? We always have game tape. Always got game tape, right? I need to see the highlights. No, but I love Jordan. I think he reminds me a lot of Mook. Like, Mook was 4'6", 4'5", but he was a possession receiver. And Mook was 6'2", 6'3", and his hands were really strong and sturdy. Like, that's who I think Jordan is. I think he's a possession receiver. Like, you got to run some comebacks with him. You got to run a dig, and he's physical because he's got great hands to snatch over the middle. I'd like to see more of that because he has that in him. He's got to go make plays for us. I don't think he's a vertical stretch the field one-on-one throw a fade ball because he doesn't have the speed. But I like using those guys in the slot. I like using those guys they're competitive catch guys. All right, it's going to be bang, bang. He's going to catch it. Like, he caught the spot route the other day on the first drive and took it up for a couple yards. And so it's I would use him. I would use him like that. But I love the kid, and he's got to be a leader too. I think there's a leadership thing of bringing those young receivers on as well. But I love the comparison to Damon June of being LZ. I forgot about LZ, and he was a dog. Like, LZ was a dog, and then it was a hybrid because he's probably LZ's size, but he has got Rhino tendencies. Like, Rhino was coming down and running through your face. And I love that. And we had Gio, and it was thunder and lightning. So that was great to have. But those guys are touch package guys. We got to get those guys the ball. And as many ways as we can, as creatively as we can. And it's tough to be an offense coordinator. I'm not saying it's easy to have stuff on film that has already been seen, and you have to get really, really creative. But I think we got to get those guys the ball in certain packages. And I'd love to see some other guys step up and maybe get our tight ends involved too. I mean, we don't, I don't know how many, I think Max's brother's got the most catches because they throw it to each other, which is great. I'm fine with that, but we got to get some other guys on the field and get involved.
Yeah, well, you mentioned earlier, let's go over to the other side of the ball, Bryn, here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier you end up losing Thad Dixon. You were a guy that coached corners back at Florida International. So how big of a loss is that? And what did you think of the guy that was basically his replacement? Now, he was out there starting and playing in most of the game because of the type of scheme that they were running. They looked like they had Thad Dixon really sticking to Antonio Williams most of the game. What did you think about the young guy, Jaden Patterson?
I like Jaden. I really do. I think he plays aggressive. He's intense. He competes when the ball's in the air. He plays really, really well when the ball's in the air, and he's played great. And he's going to have to step up even more. But I think the reps he got when Thad went out, it was really impressive. And even before that, I can't say enough about Thad Dixon. I love that kid. I got a chance to spend some time with him during training camp and just kind of like talk DB play because I love defensive backs. Like if I could coach one position besides quarterbacks, it would be DBs because it's such a it's a bang bang type situation when the ball's in the air. You got to be really competitive, and Thad's got it all. And so it's a shame that he's going to be out for a little bit, but I think Thad's leadership has to show through too. But I think when you look at our defensive secondary, I think there's a lot of guys that have probably poor eye discipline, I would say, and we used to always say that it's tough to cover for like 3.5 seconds, and we've only had 4 sacks on the year. So these guys are covering for a while, and it gets lonely. It's like playing in space in basketball. You're like, oh man, like guy hits a backdoor cut, right? You're like, oh shit, like I played great defense for like, I was hedging out. I freaking got there, and he backdoor cuts me. I'm like, dude, I was playing great defense for like 5 seconds, And so how long can you cover these guys? It's kind of one of those things where you got to have a lot of patience. And I do think we might need to change it up schematically because we might not have man-to-man type players. And I'm just being honest. I think that's a man-to-man corner. I think you got to look at it. How many reps do you want to play Patterson? As a man-to-man guy going forward. Like, can we protect these guys by playing a different scheme? And by protection means like I think it goes back to the offense and defense. Like that's why I say changes need to be made, not from a coaching standpoint, like who's coaching these kids, but schematically. Like we played zone more like the majority of the time because we had young DBs at FIU my first year. And then we had seniors that were like, yo, we can strap it on. Let's go play man-to-man. And you can do different things because guys get better. So, like, the protection of your players allows your scheme to be what it is. Like, I've always respected the guys that like, hey, man, look, I don't want him playing. Maybe 6 or 7 reps of man-to-man, great. Perfect. If we can get 6 or 7, that's awesome. But if we can play cover 2 and blitz a little bit, and if we can play a little bit of 3 and help them and give these guys not playing the whole game on an island, I think that's what you got to do, and especially in the secondary, because if I'm going to be honest, like when you watch the tape, I think our secondary has not performed very well. I think we've stopped the run. I think our defensive line has played pretty well. I think Andrew Simpson's a dog. Mm-hmm. And I think our front 7 is very serviceable in the run game. But I think our DBs have busted the last 2 games we played, UCF and Clemson, and it's kind of cost us.
You mentioned the 4 sacks. You've been satisfied with what the front 7 has done in the run. Have you been surprised by their inability to get consistent pressure on the quarterback? And is maybe one of that schematical changes just dialing up more pressure to help out these corners and these safeties?
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think we've had a pass rusher since Robert Quinn, and I don't know why. I don't know. We got to do a little bit better recruiting. I think in that we need an edge rusher. Like you look at the guy from South Carolina, you look at those guys from Clemson. When it is 3rd and 7 or 3rd and medium, they are coming after your butt, and they have a pass rushing stance. Like it's a different stance. and everywhere across the country is getting more sacks. And I don't know what it's been, since Mack and things like that, even since I've been doing the games, like, I don't know, you guys know better than me, but we haven't got, besides the UVA game last year, I don't know if we've gotten more than like 1 or 2 sacks in a game. Like, it's just the constant pressure on the quarterback. And then you look at the other side, I feel like we're always getting pressured. Our quarterbacks are always on the ground getting smoked. And it's just like, you gotta find a way to like get pressure on the quarterback, especially in those third downs. Like, you gotta, like, we used to call them like TE stunts, tackling in, twist, get different packages. Like, I remember, one of the hardest things when all the guys stand up at the line is called radar. And it's like, dude, we have no idea who's coming. And it's tough. And so if you can confuse people, it helps you kind of get those simulated pressures. And I think Clemson does a great job with those. I mean, I was at FIU and I went to study with who's the head coach of Oklahoma now. It's
Brent Venables.
Yeah, so Venables was a DC, so I went down there 2 summers in a row, and I just wanted to learn football. And like, I was just like, can I be a sponge? And he let me sit in all these meetings. And I'm like, man, your blitz packages is crazy. Because when you watch it on film, you have no idea. It's like diabolical. You have no idea who's coming. And now he's doing it in Oklahoma, and no one can score points. And I'm like, I know why. So maybe you study those guys. And I know Coach Belichick's doing all that stuff. I just want to see it. And I think that's kind of like the creativity part that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and did you see, a little bit of that against TCU? Because it felt like they were showing some more exotic stuff in that game, but it just wasn't necessarily working. And it feels like since then, Stephen Belichick's kind of bailed on that. He's gone with the more traditional fronts and everything like that, because we saw a lot of Andrew Simpson lining up on the edge in that first game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like our plan going into TCU, we haven't seen it since. Mm-hmm. Like, offensively and defensively, like taking those shots, taking those risks, taking those chances, and even like, I remember the first half, like, boys, if we don't throw a pick 6 with 4 minutes left, we're only down like 10, or it's like a 1-score game.
Yeah.
And, even if you punt there, it's still better than a pick 6, because then it's a 2-score swing. So like, and we were doing things defensively that I haven't seen since that game. And look, I think, I don't want to sit up here and like say I know everything, but I've watched pretty intently as of you guys. But those like seeing those different blitzes, those different packages, I would love to see them again, because it was a different game plan for sure. It's a great point.
I wanted to go back to the offensive side of the ball. A lot of new, 70 new players, and you're bringing in, you brought in Gio, and then you brought in. And then they retain Max. How much do you think it's hurt them, especially with Gio, how late everyone kind of got here just trying to learn the offense? Because like for you, when you had the coaching change from, we went from, Butch to Everett Withers to Larry Fedora, you had an offseason to learn his spread offense. That's why you were so productive right away, where these guys didn't get it here until, the summertime and trying to learn this pro style offense. How much is that? Do we maybe need to take a little bit more grace, I guess, as fans and people that are being, I guess, critical from what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I made this comment because it's a great point. Gio pretty much had, I want to say it was like probably 18 to 20 practices to like get enough reps to go play. Because really, you think training camp, you're in, you're not really, you're running plays, but it's not, the volume's not going to be, it's an 18 play rack here and there. And so you just don't get enough reps. And even in the summer when the coaches can't have their hands on you, it's tough to do that and learn a playbook by yourself. I try to do it in the NFL and I'm like, damn, this is over my head. I got like 2 days to learn a new playbook and go play. It's tough. And I think there needs to be some grace with these kids, because they are kids, but at the same time, you'd like to see just a little bit better product. But I think there's such a, it's really hard to run a pro style system. And if you haven't been under center, it's going to take you a little bit. Like, it took me a while. So, I mean, I played for my dad and we were in the gun. I would 100% of the time. And then I'm going to make play calls that are, really, really long. Mm-hmm. And then you're canning it and you're alerting it. You got to you got to find out who the mic is, and you got to change protection. And I mean, it's a whirlwind for that 40 seconds that the play clock's going down. You're like, I got to do all this shit, boys. And think about like doing my job. So it's a very, very tough position to play. And it's even tougher when you don't have enough reps and you haven't done it that much. And, he started for however many games at South Alabama. And I'm not trying to downplay South Alabama, but it's not Clemson. It's not Georgia Tech. It's not those games in the ACC. And I know how bad I sucked in 2011. Like, it was a week in and week out. You just haven't had the reps. You're like, holy shit, I was used to be on the sideline, like waiting for this chance. But when you're actually playing and it's week in and week out and game plan prep, I got hurt. Oh man, it's just a lot of things in your brain as a quarterback. So I get it and I lived it. But I think when you made a great point about, I had Larry got hired, I had ankle surgery. Larry gets hired. I'm on crutches. I got to get ready for spring because I had all spring ball with Blake Anderson. And then, we were joined at the hip. Like, Larry used to call us like the Bad News Bears brothers because we would like yell, fight, and scream because like we're trying to go score points. And I think we averaged like 39 a game in 2012, which was amazing. And we scored 58 against Georgia Tech. We scored 50, but we were putting up points. But it took me a while to get in Blake's back hip. Like, he had to trust me to change plays. And I don't think it was till like midway through the year where he's like, you got a green light. And it was like I must have had those 15 practices in the spring and then all training camp. And then, halfway through the year where it was like, okay, I can go make plays now. And it felt comfortable. And I think that's the biggest thing is, we're looking at college games almost like NFL games. Like, every week we want our team to win. And some weeks it's not the week to win. It's the week to go compete and see if you can win. So, I really think we have a chance to turn it around. I do. But something, like I said, someone's got to change. They got to have a great week of practice, and some leaders have to step up.
So let's look ahead to the rest of the season here. Carolina, you look at a lot of the games that they have on the schedule. Virginia certainly looks like a much tougher game. Heck, even Cal, I know they didn't have the greatest performance against Duke where they started hot and then fell off. But, this schedule isn't looking nearly as easy as it once was. If you're in that locker room, what are you saying as the leadership group to these guys about what might look like a little bit more of what looks like a more daunting task than what it was in the preseason as we go throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah, you want the honest, what I would say right now? If I was going to practice tomorrow, I'd hold everybody accountable 24/7. And you better sleep at the damn facility because we're not going out like this. And I would say, I don't give a shit what you got going on in your personal life, how many catches you have. I don't care if you're a freshman, redshirt, senior, you sat the bench. I don't give a shit. I've said this to people when I played. This is the same thing I've told my teammates and my peers. When we strap it up, I don't give a damn who we're playing. We're going to compete. I don't care if we're down 50 or we're up by 50. We're going to step on the gas, and we're playing for each other. And that is our single solitary mindset is how can I be as a leader, the best version of myself and hold people accountable to not have that product be on the field. It sucks to lose, and it better suck for everybody else because right now I want it to hurt for them because you're getting outplayed. And nobody wants to see that. And you got to have some personal pride right now to go to attack. And it's got to be full throttle attack mode. We are going to fight till every single whistle. And you really find out who your friends are. You find out who your teammates are going to be, right? Like, I remember we had a ton of off-the-field shit. Like, we had probably the worst off-the-field shit you could have as my first year started, like the worst. And I didn't give a damn, fellas. I really didn't care. I wanted to be a starting quarterback in Carolina so much that I didn't want anyone to F it up. I remember being like, I was just blacked out of the whole entire noise because I sat the bench behind TJ for 2 years, and I was so pissed. Because I knew I wanted my chance. And that mattered to me where I didn't care who the coach was. I mean, literally, I thought I could coach the team. As long as there was 11 guys that showed up, I just wanted to run out of the tunnel and feel the smoke and literally just be a college football player. And I think sometimes that we get sideways on that, and you got to have a locker room. Like, you look at Oregon, those dudes play freaking hard. I mean, they are exhausted. Like, Dante Moore, after they played Penn State, was like, full sweat, full drenched, like looked like he went to battle. That's what I looked like because I wasn't the best talent, but I knew I had it here and I knew I could lead. And when you can do both of those things, it doesn't matter who you effing play. I don't really care. Like we were beating Miami, Florida State, all those guys because Butch just brainwashed us and said, dude, these guys aren't better than you, man. Like we're about to go kick their shit in. And that's the challenge you have. Like I swear I'm getting fired up. But like all he put it into us was, I don't give a damn. That's why we recruited you to beat these dudes. That's why you're here. Like literally, and don't you want to be UVA and beat Florida State? Like that's my mentality. I'm watching these guys. I'm like, we need this at Carolina, man. You got to play with your heart, man. You really do. It ain't hard. Everyone's talented. And you know, one point I do want to make, I'll get off my soapbox because I got to watch the Yankees. But that's my squad, man. I need them tonight. I got to have
we're Mets fans, so yeah, we're on the other side of that one. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, you got the best roster in the league and didn't make the playoffs. Sorry. But no, I think I'm kind of tired of like this, 70 new players. Well, we evaluated, we recruited them. Let's go fucking play. Yeah. Like if I'm one of them, I'm like, damn. Like when is the production going to come? Because I know what we paid for them, and that's the bad thing about college football. But they got to step up. Like Belichick can't go throw. He can't go play defense. At some point, the players have to be dogs. And I know guys in New England took it upon themselves to go play. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just time. It's time to cut out all the bullshit. It's time to like stop looking at Twitter, Instagram. Dude, you got to play football, man. Like you got to go play football and be a football player. And that's what I want to see. And I know you guys do too, and it's pissing me off that we're not. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
All right, Bryn, I got one final one, then we'll let you go watch the Yankees hopefully get eliminated. I had a fun one.
I like that.
I had a fun one I wanted to end on with. First, and I probably know what the answer is, but I'll let you answer for yourself. What was your fondest memory as being the starting quarterback at Carolina? Mm-hmm. And then two, if you put yourself in the NIL world, what would Bryn Renner demand from Carolina for him to get his recruitment season?
Man, that's a trick. Those are great. I love those two questions. Look, I do not look. I'm a humble kid from Springfield, Virginia, that played for his dad. That was a ball boy from the time he could stand up on his own till I still feel like I love football. It's my passion. I love coaching kids. I love everything that I want to do in the sport. I was fortunate enough to achieve, but no greater accomplishment was getting a college scholarship and picking North Carolina. Mm-hmm. This place means so much. It's the friendships, it's the relationships, it's the people that I still see, the security guards and the guys that I still give big hugs to. And they the college experience at Carolina grows you to be a man. So I do that shit for free. I promise you. And I know I'm blowing smoke, but I promise you, I'm in the real world now and I got a job. I'm doing great. I don't give a shit. I didn't need that money then. I needed to have my boys. And when Giovanni, I'll tell you about it kind of goes intertwined with the best moment I had was we lost to NC State for 5 years in a row. 5 effing years, boys. And you already heard me go on a couple rants. That shit pisses me off. And I was ready to go get them. And we were in a dogfight with them in Keenan, like a dreary day. Me and Glennon were going back and forth. And when Gio returned that punt, and I saw everybody, I got goosebumps right now, and how much we worked to get to that moment. And it was all offseason, all the training, all the running. And to see the Carolina fans and know that they got their money's worth when they came to every single game to watch me play, I gave it 110. And I do that shit for free. So, because there's one thing about money, man, that shit fades and it's all about your character at the end. So like, I don't care how much money you have or how much money you get paid to play. I care about your effort and how you show up every damn day. And it's got to matter to you to play football, because I know a lot of guys that didn't have the same opportunities that I had. And I was very blessed because God put a talent on me, but they would kill to put on a Carolina uniform and to go suit up. I always thought about that. I'm like, man, these boys would, I mean, if somebody said pay $1 million, they'd go find a way. They'd take out a fucking loan to do it, you know? So there's just different things that matter really in the end. And one of those is you can't put a price tag on being a Carolina football player. I don't care. and it better matter to you. And you know, that play by Gio and having that season, and yeah, there was hard stuff, but that's what makes you tough, man. Everybody got hard stuff in their life. It really is. It's life's not fair, not hard, and sometimes people lie on social media, think they got shit going on. Like, they probably don't, but you gotta fight, man. Everybody likes fighters, underdog fighters, man. Sign me up. And no, this place means so much to me. I know it means a lot to you guys, and I appreciate all your coverage too, man. Like, y'all don't have to be doing this. Like, this it means a lot to you. So I know all my boys that I played with really appreciate it. So
thanks for saying that, man. We appreciate that. We appreciate the support, and it's been amazing having you on the podcast. I know I had you on a long time ago, way back, and we reminisced about your career and everything like that. And I'm so glad that you have, been able to land on your feet after coaching and everything like that, because, we were pulling for you. We were pulling for Butch, of course, back at FIU, and now to see that you've found yourself, in a great spot. You're a part of this the Tar Heel Sports Network, and it's succeeding the way that it is. I think that's great, and we appreciate you taking time out with us. Congratulations on the engagement. You had the biggest engagement of the week when you got drafted. If people don't know, that was Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift same week, but we were focused on Bryn Renner, what was going on with him.
There we go.
Thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it, and thanks for stopping by here with us tonight.
I appreciate you guys. Let's do it again soon.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys. Yeah.
All right, there we go. That's Bryn Renner joining us here on this edition of the podcast. Really appreciate him taking some time with us. Of course, we do want to say, if you guys were listening, we do apologize for some of the language, but you know what? He's a passionate dude, man, and we know that we are passionate as well. We have definitely been talking about that here tonight. We're passionate about this situation that's going on at Carolina, and here's the thing. I understand there were some people that were asking, why is he not talking about the news that's going on today? Remember that he is employed by the university, guys. So he is not going to get into any of the speculation, any of that kind of stuff. I think it makes perfect sense why he's just trying to focus what's on the field. And hell, somebody's got to be focused with what is going on the field. The last thing that I wanted to talk about before we get out of here tonight is, and this was asked by some people before we really got into talking with Bryn, is where does Carolina go now if they do end up actually moving on from Bill Belichick? What do they, who do they end up hiring? Is it somebody that's on the staff as an interim coach, at least for the time being? And the answer is we have no idea, because when it comes to these recruiting and practice violations, we don't know all who is involved. It could be, guys that are, on the staff currently that you would look towards, guys like Garrick McGee, who's been an offensive coordinator before, even Freddie Kitchens. Most people want him gone, want him out of a job at Carolina because of what he's done as an offensive coordinator. But remember that he's been a head coach before. We would have to find out what their involvement is with this kind of stuff before we could actually speculate on whether or not they would be interim options for Carolina. So anything is out there right now. I mean, I know there are some people making the jokes about Mack Brown 3.0. There's some people that have made the jokes to go back to Larry Fedora. Let's turn it back to those days when Bryn was on campus. I don't know if any of those options would be on the table, but I do know that right now, with everything that is going on, and if these things are true, especially if the violations are true, you have to make a move. You have to rip this Band-Aid off now and go ahead and fire Bill Belichick and just live with the consequences.
Yeah, you worry about finding his interim replacement after you get rid of him. And you'll exhaust all opportunities, all possibilities. Because someone, the best part about coaches is, for the most part, unless you're Bill Belichick, they never lose the itch to coach. That itch never leaves. They'll always want to get back in and, try to win games and develop kids and impact lives. So you'll find someone to come in here and clean the situation up. Maybe you just bring the analyst out of the booth and put them on the field, because we could use some of that passion. And that
seriously,
that was, we spend like so much time talking about like what Carolina means and the family and how passionate we are about that place. And it's usually reserved for basketball, but I think we're starting to see it's really true for these football alums, man.
Mhm.
And that's the best thing about Bryn. For us, we were young fans when he was our quarterback. He was my second quarterback. My first quarterback was TJ Yates. The second quarterback that I watched, play was Bryn.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I fell in love with him, but as I was falling in love with Carolina football, he was a big reason why. And to just see that passion and hear that passion come out, man, it's really refreshing to see, because just like us as fans, man, those guys want it just as much for this program to achieve what they're capable of achieving. And that's probably been the biggest frustration of the entire existence of this program, is that it should have achieved a lot more than what it's done. And we thought Bill Belichick was going to be the guy to take us to the promised land. We were going to be in the land of milk and honey. We were going to win ACC championships. We were going to, get to a college football playoff. Things that are very attainable. If I didn't believe it, would not say it. I would tell you guys, this is Duke. We cannot achieve that type of stuff. We can do it here. We got to get the right guy in here. And so, unfortunately, that was not proven to be Bill Belichick. And I don't think it's going to be Bill Belichick. I was hoping it was going to be, because I thought it'd be really cool to say that guy got to coach my football program and it'd be in a positive manner. That's not going to be the case, but hopefully when this all comes to an end, hopefully in the next 24 to 48 hours, we can get on the track to getting the type of success that Carolina has invested in, because what should still have you optimistic is Carolina is putting their money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
Something they quite literally have not done since the 1950s. And with that, at some point, will come the winning that we're all desperate for. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Well, and the other thing is that you need to appreciate guys like Mack Brown more. Maybe, yeah. And I mean, look, I think what this season has proven to me is that I should have been more appreciative of what he was doing here even last year.
Yeah.
I think that we've gotten to the point where we can all admit that it was time to move on from Mack Brown.
It was.
That something needed to change. But what I will not stand for, and I've seen it from a lot of this fan base, is that they will tear down Mack Brown and what he did even in his second tenure here. Guys, what he did in his second tenure here is the best thing that we've seen since he was here in his first tenure. Like, you need to understand that. And you could say, well, what we saw from Butch was better than that. Really? Because he wasn't able to stay on the sidelines and coach those teams that were ultimately that good. What you could say, what we got from Larry Fedora was better. Guys, that 11-win season, he had to beat 2 FCS teams in order to do it. You talking about an easy schedule. Mack Brown didn't do that. Mack Brown went out. He landed guys, and people have used this against Mack Brown. Well, look at the talent that he had. He went out and acquired that talent. He went out and got those guys from the high school ranks. I can promise you right now that when it comes to Sam Howell, if he doesn't jump in on that recruitment, Sam Howell does not play for Carolina. He plays for either Florida State or he follows Walt Bell wherever he actually ends up going to, which, if I remember correctly, was UMass. I'm not sure if he ends up there, but he would have ended up with a different program. It would not have been Carolina. And then he goes out and flips Drake May from Alabama. Mack Brown did some amazing things here at Carolina. You need to know that, he is the best that Carolina has had, and he needs to be treated that way post what happened at the end of his time here. I know that he tried to trick Carolina into basically keeping him based off of what he was doing in terms of, saying, agreeing to basically step away at the end of the year, but then telling his players and the media that he was coming back next year. But at the same time, you still need to appreciate what he did for Carolina, because it's the best that we have seen. And hopefully we'll be getting back on that track soon. Hopefully whatever new coach Carolina ends up hiring is a serious hire, because this hire that they made, we didn't know it at the time. We thought that it was the ultimate serious hire that they were making. It was the most unserious hire that you could have possibly made. And at this point, it's time to wash, rinse, and repeat. And just, now hopefully you can get a legitimate coach in here that's willing to take this program to the next level. It's not going to be easy, guys. And, Brian Pinnell says it right here. He says, we live in an instant gratification culture. The thing I will tell you is that with this new coach, especially if he's having to deal with an NCAA cloud, things are not going to be easy for Carolina. But you do hope that they can come out on the other side of it. And I'm with you. I think this is a program that has the ability to be I wouldn't say a power in football, but can be what we've seen from teams like Indiana, like we've seen from some of these other teams in the country that have great basketball programs, but at the same time have found success in football. Indiana is really that great, is really the one that I point to, because that is a basketball school through and through. And yet they went out and hired Kirk Cignetti. He has taken them to a college football playoff appearance in his first year. He looks like he's heading towards potentially taking them to a second college football playoff appearance in his second year. And it's not just because of the easy schedule, guys. It's because he is a great coach, and Carolina can find that guy. And with the money that they're going to be willing to spend, I would believe that they are going to be able to find that guy. The thing that you need to do is trust in your athletic director. Lee Roberts, the chancellor of the university, he has pushed for Carolina football to be something that gets a lot of focus, because he knows that that is what is best for the athletic department as a whole. Well, you need to let your athletic director make that decision, and hopefully that's what actually ends up happening if they officially move on from Bill Belichick. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the podcast, guys. It's been an amazing one. I know there was a lot of information that we had earlier. If you guys are just joining us now, make sure you go back and check out all that information. We went through all the reports that we got from earlier today, from Andrew Jones to Ollie Conley, all of those different reports. We went through that. We gave you our opinions on the situation and what we think should happen. So make sure you guys go back and check that out for us. And we would really appreciate that. Do it on the YouTube page. That's what we're continuing to push for you guys. Our YouTube page is the source for all of the great content, all the live editions of the podcast that we do. You can go back and check out the Clemson recap if you want to, where we dive into some of the stuff that went on the field during that game. But a lot of talk about Belichick in that edition of the podcast as well. But biggest thing is make sure that you subscribe to that channel. That's helping us get some of these sponsors that we have landed here recently. So make sure that you guys are doing that. And also head over to the website, HeelToughBlog.com. Check out the articles that we got up there for you guys. All of the latest information that we have on Bill Belichick and what's going on with his situation. And of course, any other news that we have rolling in on that front, any other stuff that we get on that front, we will be posting that there to the website, as long as we, have sources that are telling us, or it's been released to the public. So make sure that you guys are checking all of that out for us over there on the Heel Tough Blog website. Of course, we'll have you covered with everything Cal. We're going to have, some stuff during the bye week, but with all the stuff that's going on right now, if this continues, we're just going to be focusing on this. But once we get past this, we will be focused on the rest of the season for you guys. 7 games still to go for Carolina. It starts with Cal next Friday night. So we will have you covered with that, with a preview and everything that we bring to you on a weekly basis. One last thing that I want to say, really do appreciate all you guys who jumped in on this edition of the podcast. It has been crazy. The numbers have been amazing. So we really appreciate you guys for jumping in on this edition and giving us the support there in the comments section, asking us all these questions. We didn't get to some of them. We apologize for that, but we really appreciate all of the comments that you guys have given to us, and all of the viewers that will view this either afterwards or listen to this edition of the podcast afterwards. We appreciate you guys as well. So that wraps it up once again for this edition of the podcast. Want to thank Josh for hosting with me. Want to thank Bryn Renner for stopping by. And of course, want to thank you guys for watching and listening And as always, go Tar Heels.